Good morning, everyone. John471 here to discuss the S&P 500. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Today is Thursday, April 17th, 2025. The news we have scheduled at 8:30, we have housing starts and permits, jobless claims, and Philly Fed. That 8:30 time will be our biggest and really our only data point today. Through the afternoon, we have a few Treasury announcements, and we also have Michael Barr speaking at 11:45. This would be in addition to any unscheduled news, obviously. Also noted, tomorrow is Good Friday, so the markets are closed. Today is actually the end of the week, so that's what we have in front of us today. Let's move on to our charts. Here we have the S&P 500. These are 30-minute bars, daily profiles. And the important thing to be aware of here, just big picture starting, we're within the range of 4.9. Let's actually get all of 4.9 in here. So important things to realize, we're within the range of 4.9. 4.9, when we broke higher from this area, we left single prints. What's remaining is here, bordered by this local low at 51.4675, right around the mid-century. This is an important low because it's kind of our balance low for now, because we defined this range with 4.9. We pulled back from it, and this became our low. We rallied trying to take the high, and this became our high. So really, this is the environment we're trading in here, where we pulled back, attempted to get the high, and now we're reverting lower. And being unable to get the high, our eyes are on this low at this point. What else do we have here to see? Well, from our attempt at the high, once we made that slightly lower low, then everyone kind of realized that the music in this game of musical chairs was starting to slow down, and they had to start hitting bids. And when a bunch of people think they're going to get higher prices and then they don't, and they have to start hitting bids, often it leaves unauctioned areas and that's what we're seeing here with this gap zone, areas that were just not well auctioned, and as well our single prints here. So we have those areas of unauctioned areas internal to this range, and then down here we have this area bordering, and up here we have this area bordering as well. So the big picture for me is, if we're holding this low, then I would expect us to chew through this area. And then if we get above this area and we're able to hold, then that would potentially open the door to start to push higher to this next unauctioned area. But if we push into this area and we close it and we're unable, we start working lower, then we're going to be looking for the low. And the same, if we are unable to get through this area, I'll be looking for the low. Or if we open above this area and we hold it and we can't close it from below, then I will be looking for potentially yesterday's high. Let's go to a smaller time frame chart and plan for specific price action. Okay, so here we are on an intraday chart. There are no bars because I just wanted to, for a moment, highlight just the movement of value. And you see these profiles with the pinkish area, those are day bar, those are RTH session, and these ones with the darker value area are the overnight session or Globex hours. And so what we're seeing here is just, this is the day that we put in our high or our highest price below the 4.9 high. And you can see that we had sort of inched up here. We hit into this, which is essentially an offer. This is a bunch of people that want to sell these prices or sell as close to the high as they can. And what we see is it was just too much supply for the demand that was at that area, and we see that value started to need to push lower to sop up all of that inventory. A bid stepped up in this area, and this bid was still not enough, and we had to release lower. And we see that we moved the VPOC down here yesterday. So this area is where the buyers kind of began to dig their heels in, and we did sort of spill over beneath, but that bid reasserted itself. And today it matters. So that's just a brief look at how value is migrating. Let's bring the bars on. Okay, and so what we see yesterday, from yesterday, we had this attempt after we released lower on NVIDIA news. Overnight, we pushed higher, trying to regain the prior range. It was rejected. During the RTH open, we bounced around a little bit and ended up breaking the IB low, or I'm sorry, breaking the IB high, but failing to get the overnight high and just releasing lower. This to me looks like just an overwhelm of supply that needed to sell at this place. And the question for us is are those sellers still in there? We see that we pushed up higher here and put in an overnight high, a developing overnight high within this upper distribution of yesterday's double distribution profile. And now we're reverting lower and we're back within the single prints. So basically on this profile, important areas we have right here, this HVN, and now we have this distribution, and we can really start to talk about our overnight high as an important area here. So let's discuss some ideas. We'll discuss bullish ideas first, although, no particular order. We want to be prepared for all scenarios, especially on a day like today where again, I don't think there's a strong directional bias here. We'll see. I mean, we're obviously pushing towards the low, which is the 5150 region that I mentioned. We're pushing towards that, but we don't know who's going to show up today. So let's discuss our bullish ideas. So the most bullish idea, and the one that I always like to start with, is if the overnight low holds, because the overnight low holding is really our first indication of any directional type of movement here. So if we are able to hold this overnight low, we're kind of pressing towards it now, and we've lost this overnight VPOC. So if this, so what we could see here, it's not out of line to see some type of a push lower that tests into this area, because this area is where the support kind of showed up, as I said, pushes into this area. But what we're looking to see is respect for this region of trade. So push lower, if we're able to find support and revert higher, again, the single prints are really going to be a guide if we open in here. So if we are able to hold this overnight low and on the open or before, maybe on the numbers, find some support and push back higher towards the upper end of the single prints, that would be very bullish for me. And this would be an area where there will be some static, I would expect. But regardless, the idea we're thinking about is if we find support here, we get an impulse, we push higher, we're able to start to, the single prints start to firm up, then I would be open for a test of the overnight high. Now, here's what I'm going to caution here. We're seeing just a trend of lower highs. So if we get something like this, if we get something like that, and it takes out the singles, but starts just kind of hanging around, then we're in an area where we're really not sure what's going to happen, because people could get nervous and short stops could go off, pushes this to this high. You see rotations start to expand higher, and then the next thing you know, we're getting into the prior week settle. Now the prior week settle will be key, because this is essentially the end of the week. So basically what I'm telling you here is if we find support ahead of the overnight low and we're able to push above the single prints and the single prints firm up, that will put the overnight high on deck. We're very aware of the possibility for a lower high that kicks us back into the singles. But if we're able to take this high and see these rotations expand, then we're open for a test of the prior week's high or prior week's settle, and basically this area between 91 and 01 into the single prints, which is the key area to be tested if we make it through the overnight high. Now, this is an area where I would expect a lot of static in this area. This is definitely where the sellers could come back in and force reversion back down towards the single prints. But if they do not, if we get into this area above the prior week settle and we start pushing into the gap zone, I would expect any remaining shorts to get nervous and to have to start covering, which could fuel continuation higher to take this naked VPOC and close these single prints, or close this gap zone. Now, if we get into this gap zone and this happens, then I will consider this to be price discovery up. I'll be longs only, and I'll be looking for tests of this overnight high and the area I mentioned yesterday, which is still key today if we get into it, is this area starting at the 54.13s. So it's, right at the top of the gap into this naked VPOC. If we get into this area and hold, the next target up would be this 54.60s region, the top of this area. And this whole area is also where resistance could come in. But this is where, if we get through this area, this is one vol up. It's not an insane amount of range. This is where things could really start to, where the shorts could really be off balance and we could really see stops go off. So that's kind of the progression of the longs, where I feel like the longs will, as we push higher, I would expect to see more longs drawn in, but it's really going to start with being able to get the overnight high. And then if we can get the overnight high, then this is the key to it all, this area from settlement up through the one time frame break and how we treat this area. If we start to get through this, then we're really making progress. If we just push into this area, it could be a test that we just end up reverting for a quiet day. All right, let's go to bearish ideas. I'm starting to go long already. Bearish ideas. So could we take the overnight high and still be bearish? Certainly. It would just be the idea that I kind of mentioned, where we take this, everyone thinks we're going to get long, and then we just revert, and it's another lower high. Now, this could be chop. If we do something like that, it could be chop because we're still going to be above this area. So what I'll be looking for is if all of this fails, irregardless of what happens above the 5300s, if I'm going to look to be aggressively short in a directional way, I would need to see us lose this area with some authority. Now, it could happen with, like I said, taking the high, or we could just push up higher to these single prints or just fall through it. But regardless, what I'm looking for is to see this area get totally lost, for us to be unable to recover it, and to see more participation drawn in as we push lower. At that point, that'll open me up to target this low. Now, if we get this low, there's a high percentage that we just kind of get a lick check and revert back up into range. But if we don't, then I'm going to be going zone to zone. My next target will be Century. And the ultimate target, if we really start to move today, would be those 5150s balance low. Do I think we get there today? It depends on what happens during the day. Is it possible? It's certainly possible. Now, our nothing day, here's the thing. Our nothing day is going to be all about yesterday's range, because we can make a nice push in either direction that really looks directional, but just fail at yesterday's extremes back to these singles. This is a very real possibility today for just a push to either one of these extremes, and we could either test either extreme or we could fall short and get an inside day. This is pretty high probability if there's no news today, and keep in mind, we have this unauctioned area, this area that's undecided here. So all the short-term traders would love to see this get kind of this tighten up and for us to get a move to another area. But if OTF does not have enough to do today or doesn't have enough reason to stick their neck out, then we might just chop this area through and see what we might just chop this area through because it's not mature enough to move away. So be aware of that. Potentially today, a nothing day that just chops around the singles. So that's what I got for you today. I'm giving a lot of weight to the single prints. I'm giving a lot of weight to this area. I'm giving a lot of weight to this prior week settle and the one time framing above. So the areas that are key for me today: yesterday's VPOC, prior week's high to yesterday's high, yesterday's low, and of course the single prints, and how we bounce around these bumpers and with what kind of momentum and conviction is going to tell me how I want to trade today. That's what I got for you. And if anything's unclear, please ask me in the chat room. Always happy to help. I hope everyone's having a great morning. I hope your great morning continues. And I hope that you find some way today to improve your trading that is not related to your P&L. That's what I got for you. Hope you have a great day. Ciao.